the first movie you made was called Harvest of Redemption, right?
What I want to do is that I want to inspire and teach people of color that they can do this, and to lift them up and a champion for them and become a voice for them, and to help get their stories out in the world. And that's when my kind of business hat, my creative hat shifted a little bit more to business/creative. And that's when I decided I need to launch a company that has a few things going on. And that's Mucho Mas, which is that logo behind you.
That's for people that are just listening to the podcast. This episode's background is Mucho Mas. That's Hav's. Is it a production company? Is that the right terminology to use?
That's right. Yeah. It's I would say it's more of a multimedia company. So Mucho Mas, there's a production arm that produces, finances, and develops content, both film and television, primarily with a Latinx bent. And then I launched a company a few years ago called Inclusion, which is a management company where we represent about 70 actors, writers, directors, producers on both sides of the camera, which is why I'm segueing all this, is that it was important for me, like I said, to kind of show people that didn't have my experiences or opportunities or mentors the ropes, and be that voice of reason for them, and to try to open doors for them and give them opportunities, which I think we've done a really great job of. I'm not trying to pat ourselves on the back, but the last film we just did, the Dennis Quaid film that we just shot in the Dominican Republic, true story. Our client from Austin, Texas, Julio Quintana, who was Terrence Malick's protege, really talented. He wrote and directed the movie. And our other client, Jimmy Gonzalez from Texas, starred opposite Dennis Quaid.
Nice.
And that would have never happened. This was a pretty big film for the players that were involved, between Sony Provident and Endeavor Content. And I really fought for Julio and for Jimmy and said, man, we have to storytelling should be reflected in the world we live in. Yeah. And that's currently not the case. So I was like, we've got to do that with this film, and we've got to do it one film, one TV series at a time. And that's where I really started to that's why I get up in the morning, and that's where I really get passionate, and this fire in my belly is to help people. And I bring all this up to tell you a little bit more about my company. The production company of it all, everybody's got a production company out here, or at least they act like they do. That's easy. For me, the important part was building a company like Inclusion that supported our overall ethos and vision for what it is we're trying to accomplish, and trying to change the messaging. Yeah. And I grew up seeing Latinos reflected in a really negative light. There were either perpetrators of crime on television, or it's always the gardener,
or just like a caricature of the Latino Hispanic experience. Yeah,
exactly. The gangbanger, or the incarcerated. And so we're trying to change that narrative, and I think the only way we can do that is to put out product that's not reflective of that. Yeah, I think what we're trying to do is bring it all back to our roots in terms of storytelling, and like I said, celebrating the culture in a positive light. And like I said, look, aside from the economic opportunity, there's a real civic and social need right now, especially with everything happening in the world. Not to sound callous, the most important thing is all these poor people dying of COVID.
Right.
Inside the movie business, like, we're not curing cancer out here.
Well,
but I think you're right. What's funny about all this is that I never thought, even though I love it's happened this way, that I would end up coming back to Texas. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. Yeah. Let me just finish on Mucho Mas. Yeah. So that I can tell you where it's headed. So the third vertical I have is an AVOD service we're launching called Vida On Demand, which is a family-focused channel. One of the channels is a pet channel, pet service with Cesar Millan. The other one is myths, movies and series. And the third is like gaming and just different things. Yeah. And then the fourth thing we're doing is we're working with the city of San Antonio of turning the old Brooks Air Force bases in the studio space where people can film. Nice. Not unlike what Robert Rodriguez out in Austin at the airport hangar. Yeah. At the Austin studios. And so I say all that because it all started with Hippo in San Antonio saying to me, son, if you don't want to practice law, get the hell out of here and move to Hollywood. And now I'm coming back to San Antonio, which is really exciting for me. And it's special
I'll bet that's really exciting. Yeah.
It is. And it's exciting for me to educate young Texans from all walks of life and to show them that you can do this if you want to do it, whether you want to be a technician on a set or a filmmaker, a producer, or a writer, whatever it is you want to do, and working with the local communities and bringing more jobs to the city of San Antonio and to the state of Texas. I think all of that's really important. We got a little bit of work to do on the legislative side to get there. But the one thing that San Antonio is doing a good job of is they've actually given filmmakers 10% more than any other city in the state of Texas, which I think is incredible.
Nice. Nice.
And that's why we're positioning ourselves there. We also have some partners there that are investing in our company. So it's an obvious kind of fit for us to move to San Antonio and to have a presence there. We've got to stay out here for all the obvious reasons. This is where the action's at. But we're going to have a presence in Texas now and in LA, which I'm really excited about. And just to drive home your point about telling stories, dance with the one that brung you, right? You got to dance with the one that brung you.
For sure.
And that's something that I've never forgotten about.
Well, and you coming back to San Antonio after being in Hollywood is, and I know you're too humble to probably agree with me on this, but in a way, it's another example of the hero's journey. You went away, you faced challenges, you learn from them, and then you come home and you take what you learned to make your home a better place. One of the things, and again, Hav, it's remarkable to me how many commonalities there are in my guests who are all incredible people in a variety of different areas. But one of the things you said earlier is the idea of helping other people accomplish their goals. Like, to me, and Dusty talked about this quite a bit, Dusty considers himself a servant, not really a leader. And so this idea of servant-based leadership, like what, I'm 47 right now, Hav. I was probably 40 or so when I finally realized, hey, guess what, knucklehead? Life is not all about you. Life is about what you can do for other people. It took me a very long time to figure that out. But I love the fact that you talk about how you're in the business basically to help people, to help other people. Is there a better motivation? Is there a better way of living than, and it was remarkable to me when I figured this out, Hob, because what I found is when I help other people, I feel a lot better about myself, like Absolutely. A lot better about myself. So is there a better feeling to you than being able to help somebody in your community that might not otherwise have had an opportunity?
Not at all. I think that's why we do what we do. Not unlike you, I was, not to put words in your mouth, but I was certainly too selfish early on in this.
I was a selfish asshole for a very long time. I'll put it that way. You get a bit dazzled by Hollywood and, I can make a lot of money out here. And the funny thing is when you start to help people and you shift your mindset, you start to make the money you wanted to make by helping people. Isn't that funny how that works?
How it works. It's like, but no, for me, like I said to you, that's why I get up in the morning. Like it really drives me and puts that passion in my gut to help people and to open doors. For me, it's about opening doors. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care what walk of life you come from or what your background is or what culture you come from. I love to be able to say, hey, don't make the same mistakes I made, or let me introduce you to the right people. Perfect example. We just put a client on Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay. Big movie, right? Big franchise. Yeah. His last movie, he grew up in Harlingen, Texas on the border. His last movie, Brian, was $56,000.
Wow.
He went from making a $56,000 movie. I signed him 2 months ago because I really believe in this kid. His name is David Blue Garcia, incredibly talented. I saw his film Tejano, which is set on the border. And I was like, man, I really believe in you. I want to represent you. And I want to open some doors for you. And he was like, all right, let's do this. After 2 months, again, not patting ourselves on the back, but it's an example of how fulfilling it is and how it's an example that I think it keeps kids inspired, that whether you're an actor that just got off the bus from Texas or a filmmaker that made a short film, you can come out here and you can be somebody.
Yeah.
And I think that applies in any business. But I think And it reminded me that guys like Robert Rodriguez, who had made El Mariachi for $7,000, had a huge career. Look what he's done since then. And I think that's the allure and the excitement of the business, not on the cosmetic fake side of things, but on being able to propel somebody that wouldn't necessarily have the opportunities had we not put them in the right position, or had we not developed them the right way, or opened the right doors, or coached them and empowered them.
And the cool thing about this is, I can virtually guarantee that David is his name, right?
Yeah.
That David, when he is in your shoes, is going to be helping kids just like you helped him. Like, in other words, by doing what you're doing, that it doesn't just help one person. It's like ripples in a pond. It just continues out there. And I think stuff like you're talking about, especially now where there's this sense, and by the way, I think it's in general, I think it's a fake sense that half the country hates the other half. I don't think that's actually true. I think that's just the impression you get from social media and stuff like that. But there is a lot of division right now. And I think one way through this is doing what you're doing. Stop focusing on yourself and start looking at ways you can help people that need help. How can you be a servant? So that's really incredible, Hav. And